If you're still getting hit with the "I just don't have time right now" objection, that's not necessarily a closing problem. It's a process problem. In this video, we're gonna break it down because we've had a question from a business who seems to get this objection quite frequently. Now, the time objection, or the "I don't have time right now" objection, isn't really one of those objections that you can just fix with a clever line. Generic lines tend to get generic results. So the reality, if you're getting that line quite frequently towards the end of your sales calls, you've probably missed something quite early on in the process. In this video, I'm gonna break down exactly why you're getting that objection, how to catch it early, but also how to turn it into leverage, not just resistance. And for those of you who don't know me, my name's Adam Davies. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Chief. We run a UK-based sales agency which help businesses recruit top talent, manage them properly, but also scale them to crazy highs. If it's something that you may be struggling with and you want to see how we've helped tons of businesses exactly like yours, there will be a link in the description if you want to find out a little bit more. But enough about me, let's get on with the video. Most of the time, prospects are going to say at the end of the sales call, "I just don't have time right now," normally because it's a nice way of saying, "I just don't see enough value." You see, the brain is designed to protect you, right? So when you get to the end of a sales call, your brain is going to try and grab hold of any piece of logic it possibly can, lock in and convince you that this is what you need to do to stay in your comfort zone. And "I just don't have time right now" is probably top of the pile when it comes for logical answers, particularly if you're selling to businesses or busy people in general that are looking to kind of make a change, but they can kind of justify why they're too busy right now. But the chances are that's probably why they're on a call with you in the first place, depending on what you're offering. But for lots of people that are watching this video, one of their solutions or one of the outcomes to come off the back of working with you is probably to have a little bit more time anyway. But the reality of it, the chances are you probably missed it early on in the sales call. And the reason I say that, and if you think back, if you're doing calls specifically yourself or speak to some of your sales reps and ask them honestly, when they get that "I just don't have the time right now" objection, they probably wasn't surprised when they heard it. They kind of expected it. They knew it was coming. And the reasons for that is you were given clear signs, obvious signs early on in the sales call, but you kind of chose to ignore it or didn't really take it seriously, and you maybe had other questions in your mind you wanted to kind of go towards. So you kind of veered off of the back of it. And a good example of this is if you've asked the question, "What stopped you from fixing your challenge?" Whatever it is, obviously you'd say it in a better way than that, but the crux of it is a question along those lines. And they say, "Well, I've just not really had the time to fix it," or "I've just not been able to get round to it," or "I've been too busy doing X, Y, Z." These are clear clues that you're going to have this problem a little bit later on, because they've had this issue all the way, like they might have been having this issue for the last couple of years and they've not solved it because they don't have the time to do it. And it's because their brain is preventing them from making a change because they're busy. Because busy people, adding more to their plate is going to be very difficult for them, right? It's going to cause them pain, short-term struggle. So your job at that stage is to help reframe that, open the brain to actually think openly about, actually, yeah, it might be a little bit more difficult to actually fix this right now, and it might make my life a little bit of a hell for the next month or so, but the long-term gain far outweighs it. But your job at that stage is to bring it up early. You don't even necessarily need to discuss it in the discovery phase. You can just kind of use it as a bit of a segue into your pitch or your close, whatever it is that you're going to do at that stage. But we need to pre-handle it before we get into the close part. Because if you start to try and handle objections right at the very end of the call, when you've dropped the price, if you do drop the price towards the end, and or more importantly, you're actually asking for an order, you're trying to close them, the brain goes into fight or flight at that stage, right? Because it's trying to stay comfortable. But if we address it and handle it early on, it just becomes an obstacle, it becomes a challenge. And it's a lot easier to solve that at that stage. And then once it's cleared up and their brain's now open to the fact that, well, actually, yeah, it might be a little bit more difficult for me right now, but later on, further down the line, it's going to make my life multiple times better. It's going to be a lot easier when you get to that final stage of actually asking for the order, because they can clearly see a return on investment. And the way you can handle it is just by kind of addressing it head on and just say, look, one thing that I've picked up on is you've said several times about time being a big barrier for you. So why is it now a priority to actually get this fixed? And you can get them to tell you why it's a priority right now. Another way of handling it is if you've got lots and lots of case studies, and particularly for the you business owners that are dealing with people that are busy anyway, all of your successful clients would have been busy and they would have had the same problems as this person. So you can kind of tell a story and use a testimonial to kind of start handling that objection. You sound exactly like John, one of our most successful clients. He had very, very similar problems. He was busy day to day, blah, 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 blah. But one of the things he found was once he started to implement stuff, it became a little bit more difficult for him for the short term. But once he got through those 2-3 weeks, which they always do, it became a lot easier. And then he found he had more time to do X, Y, Z, get towards goal, whatever it may be. And you can kind of use it as a story in that scenario. So really what we're doing is we're reframing time as the cost of inaction. So it really helps them see the call to action. Now, not always will that work. Throughout the early part of the conversation, it will work more often than not, but you'll still get people that come to the end of the call and they say, look, I just don't know if I've got the time for this right now. It's a lot to take on. At that stage, we can start to use different lines and different bits and pieces. But like I said, generic lines do tend to get generic answers. But the best thing you can do at that stage is you can feed back. If you've done your discovery well, you kind of know where they want to be. So if you can say to them, look, if you started this 12 months ago and you actually did this and you bit the bullet 12 months ago, you went through that short-term pain, where do you think you would be right now? Let them tell you how much greater and how much easier their life would be and lack of problems, whatever it may be, whatever their kind of motivation is at that stage. And you can kind of just ask them, so why do you want to repeat the past? Because if you've done your cost of inaction well enough in the discovery phase, that will hit hard. That will hit them really, really where it hurts. But really what we're doing is we're showcasing how badly they need to make that change. They can't just keep continuing what they're currently doing, because if they continue doing what they're currently doing, they'll continue to get the same results. And worst case scenario, you can kind of just address it at that stage. You can just say to them, because most of the time it's going to be fear of the unknown, fear of having way too much to do and missing out on other opportunities in the short term, whatever it may be. So you can just kind of ask them head on, is it really the time aspect, or is it just the fact that we've now got to make a decision and it's uncomfortable and you know it's going to be challenging? They're going to go for the second answer more often than not. But a lot of the time, these lines, if you're going to be that direct, it depends on your relationship and the rapport you've kind of built up. You might need to ask for a little bit of context, particularly if you're a direct person like me. It comes naturally just to be a little bit more direct. So I can call them on their bullshit a hell of a lot easier, because I can just, like, look, as you probably know by now, I'm a little bit of a direct person and I like to just be straight up and direct. So you're right if I continue that, yeah? And they'll go, yeah, absolutely fine. Look, is it really the time, or is it just the fact now that we've got to make a decision? It's difficult. I understand that completely. It's uncomfortable, and you know there's going to be challenges along the way. But is it just that now that's holding you back, or is it actually the time thing? They'll go, no, it's just the fact that I've got to kind of make a decision. Now we can segue that into the cost of inaction, and you showcase how staying where they are is going to guarantee the same results, but then the change, and look, even worst case scenario, we don't get you to the dizzy heights that we was expecting to get towards. We only get halfway there and you get half your time back. What's more risky, staying where you are at the moment and restricting yourself, not growing, whatever their goal is, or actually taking some action and even getting halfway to where you want to be? It just helps them identify that cost of inaction versus the cost of action, because we've got to stop thinking of the cost as just financial. With any decision like this, it's time, money, and energy. Whatever it is, mental capacity, actual time, obviously finances are going to be a big thing in there as well. But for a lot of guys that are pitching these kind of things, money isn't always the biggest barrier. Marketing's so good now, a lot of people that come on the call are actually qualified anyway, particularly if you've got good setters and stuff. So normally money isn't the barrier. It's going to come down to that time thing, that energy, or the fact that they just haven't seen enough value yet. The objective isn't to try and handle the I don't have time now objection. It's to really prevent it. So make sure you're using these. Really listen to the challenges and the reasons as to why they haven't actually solved this problem yet straight away, and then just address it head on if you can. And if you need to take it to the end, you've got a couple of lines there to do that. If you found this video useful and you feel like you would like to have a question of your own answered to be featured on this YouTube channel, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check it out. You can drop a question. You can remain anonymous if you want to. There's no pressure on revealing who you are. And then we can go through, we can do a video exactly like this, solving your problems. And if you did find it super useful, YouTube is suggesting that you watch this video right now because it's going to blow your mind.